If you could host a dinner party with any famous person, dead or alive, who would you invite?
I would invite.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to 5 with T5. We're bringing local business owners, community champions, and all around amazing individuals on the show to learn about their stories or business in a quick and effective way. My name is Stephen Turnbull with T5 Insurance, your host, and I'm joined by our guest today, Jennifer Keida, who is the president and CEO of Standard. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for taking the time on this snowy day in your busy season. We appreciate you taking the time to jump in. We're going to jump right in as we do on our show with the 5 rapid fire questions here. Question number 1 for you. If you had to give up your smartphone or coffee for a month, which one would it be?
Coffee.
Smartphone would be a problem, probably, huh?
Smartphone would be a problem for me. Yeah.
All right.
I don't think there's much else I would give up for that.
Question number 2. If you could host a dinner party with any famous person, dead or alive, who would you invite?
I would invite Adam Grant. He's one of my favorite writers, and
Cool.
he's a professor at MIT, and I've seen him speak, and he's very personable, and I feel like I could really learn a lot from him if I was
Very
able
cool.
to talk to him directly
Very cool.
and give him
What
one-on-one.
is, yeah, there you go. What is one leadership habit or routine that you rely on to keep yourself and your team motivated?
I would say one-on-one meetings. And when I miss them or something conflicts with them and I miss meeting with some key people one-on-one,
Sure.
I lose that connection. So that's really important, the one-on-ones.
Got it. And similar question, but what's one lesson that you've learned about leading a team that you maybe wish you knew earlier? So one lesson in leadership over the years that really sticks out.
I think the biggest lesson is that oftentimes other people have a better way to do it. Even when you figured out how to do it better than it was before, you got to be open to new ideas instead
Sure.
of forcing your ideas.
Yeah. All right, last question in the rapid fire here. What's your favorite productivity hack or time management tip?
Oh, I think I need to collect some of those. I turn around and I look and my day is gone. Um, Having other people that are helping you organize and make sure you accomplish things. So accountability, partners, things like that.
Delegation,
Yeah,
which is very, very hard. All
it
right.
is.
Survived the first 5 questions.
Thanks.
Congratulations. I was excited to come down to the location, your location, and get a tour. Thank you very much for that. And I mean, as just growing up here locally, it was so cool to see what you guys have going on there because I didn't really know much and walk through and see everything that you're going on. Before we get into the story of Standard, tell us about Jennifer for those who are watching that might want to learn more, and just then we can
Yeah.
get into the story of Standard and the things we want to talk
Yeah,
about.
I feel like I've been here 25 years, so the story of Jennifer definitely has a lot to do with the story of Standard too. But I graduated from Mount Markham, not too far from here, and I was the first person in my family to go to college, which is why I went to college for art. So actually have a BFA in painting because no one steered me in a different direction. I was a pretty good artist in school, and so thought that's what you're supposed to do, go to school for what you're good at. So I found myself with a bachelor's degree in fine arts and painting and a lot of student loans and not a really great career path. So, and eventually what happened is only a few years later, I found myself in this, financial predicament with a family. I had had my first child. And so I got involved with family business for that reason, and started in Connecticut. We had a branch office there. It was really small, and my parents didn't really trust a lot of people in business, so what better person than your daughter who's not gonna tell you what's really going on. And it only took me 2 years to convince them to close it down and bring everything here back to Utica. So that's when I made the move back to the Utica market. And the company was very small, so I took a commission sales position because that's all the company could afford at the time, really.
Sure.
And that's how I really entered into the community in this area. I had another child. I have 2 daughters, and so I was a working mom, and we moved to Whitesboro, and it's where I still live. raised my children there. And I have a daughter who's in North Carolina, Charlotte, who's engaged and just bought a home. And then I have another daughter who's in her senior year of college for mortuary science. So I love that my girls have both gone into their own direction, didn't
Sure.
rely on the legacy of our company, but also were confident enough to do some really, like my daughter that's going into mortuary science, it's a really different path for a young lady to take. And so I'm super proud of both of them. And I
That's
think
great.
my work ethic has been translated over to them.
Sure.
But so over the last couple of years, I joined the team 25 years ago, and I was a young mom at the time, and transitioned through the years, and so since then, I went back to get my MBA. I graduated with my MBA from Boston University last year because my last math class was my junior year of high school. And running a business, you kind of need a little bit more than that. So
Yeah.
I found myself in a need to educate myself at a different level. So it was about 4 years ago that I started the MBA process and finished last year. So that was one of my highlights of my last decade, more recent decade.
Yeah, so diving a little deeper into the standard story. I mean, you guys are everywhere. The marketing is amazing. Everybody sees the green on the commercials, knows exactly what it is. You do an amazing job with that. But backing up to the story of when you joined 25 years ago, tell us about that evolution to how it is today and the business that you have today, the amount of people that you have and the territories that you serve.
Sure.
When it was in Connecticut, is that where it started and then you brought it back here, or was there a hub here and then you
No,
were?
so Standard started here in Utica in 1928,
Oh,
and
wow.
there's a really fun story about poker games and losing the company through poker games, and eventually ended up in the hands of a gentleman named Henry Collins, who it was a really small company, and I mean one truck. Henry got on the truck. He had a helper. And my father eventually became that helper, and he worked as a helper for 7 years. And then when Henry needed to retire, my parents bought Standard Insulating, which has been around since 1928, but that actually was one truck with a couple ladders and a machine that chopped up and blew insulation in it. And that truck came to the home that I grew up in West Winfield, and they ran it out of our home for the majority of my childhood. And after that, they moved it into the Utica area, and we were in Whitesboro, we were in Utica, and then eventually about 19 years ago, we came here to Marcy, and my parents bought this building here. So since 1980, my parents had owned the company, and I joined it in 2000, and that's when I was in Connecticut, because they had an opportunity to start a branch office, and that's what they brought me in for initially. But we were a real small company here. It was a really, really small branch office in Connecticut. We were the first company in the United States to spray foam residentially. We're so close to Canada that's where the spray foam came down from. That application, spray foam had been used commercially, but not residentially, and so we brought a brand new product to the market, which was really difficult. And so there were a lot of struggles over those years to introduce this to the market. It was an expensive product. People didn't know about it. Codes officials didn't know about it. So that transformation was difficult through a lot of it. And we dabbled in commercial work, and we just did some of those types of things. I was a sales rep for 15 years, and I would go to new constructions, and I would go to existing homes, and I made it my mission to be the smartest person in the room, so I learned as much as I possibly could about anything to do with building science and thermodynamics, and then eventually all the programs that NYSERDA offered, and wanted to be kind of the front runner and all those things.
So talk to us about going back to the past a little bit and work on our way forward about when the company really started to turn into the company that it is today of more than one truck, the scalability. Was that something your parents did? Was that something that you put behind? And what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so the company was maintained as a pretty small company, about 3 to 4 million in revenue for the majority of the business lifetime. It was in 2013 that I took a Goldman Sachs small business program in New York City, and it was a free program offered because of the banking circumstances that we had all gone through, and So I took advantage of it. It was almost like a mini MBA, but what they did was they utilized your own personal company to evaluate and teach you things from
Cool.
finance to risk assessments, marketing, and all those things. You have to be a small company. You had to be less than 4 million to participate in the program, and it opened my eyes up to a lot of opportunity that the company could have. And so I brought that back to my parents and said, look, we can actually be bigger than we are right now. We've got to take some risks. That's something that's really difficult for people who've been in business for a long time. So that was a harder vision for them to see than it was for me.
Sure.
And so that took a few years, and we grew. And by the time my parents were ready to sell the business to us, the company was at about 6 million. And so we had, more than doubled in size. So we were growing for the first time in a long time. But when it was bought in 2020, we had less than 50 employees. We were doing, between around $7 million in revenue. Weren't making a whole lot of money doing it either. The profitability wasn't always there. There was a lot of, transitions that were happening with my parents being bought out basically. So after 2019, we worked hard. I bought my mother's shares, I bought my father's shares. And February 1st of 2020 was when we made the final deal to buy all the shares. And then 6 weeks later, COVID shut us down.
Oh,
So
man.
I had put everything on the line, my house, my savings, everything, to do this, because this wasn't just this. I had to buy my parents out, so this wasn't just a transition, and this was their retirement. So that was really scary, because I was scared to take the reins and all the risk and responsibility anyways, but now all of a sudden I have all this debt, this responsibility, and now the government's telling me I can't go in people's homes.
Right.
So that was a really scary, shaky time for us. We furloughed a lot of anybody that would make more money on furlough. We furloughed. We paid everybody's health insurance. We took pay cuts. We did everything we could to get through it. But I have a great business partner who had been in the business for about 8 years more than I had been. And so we sat down and put a business plan together, and I found my connections. We became essential. It taught us a lot about remote work, and we came out better and stronger. And part of it was because now people were working from their homes, so the comfort of their homes was a lot more important. And so we really were able to capitalize on that and do the right thing for those people. And in the meantime, we took a heavy risk and jumped into some New York State programs. So we're really, our number one customer is the state of New York, because that's who funds all the free programs that we do. And so, whenever you work with the state, you rely so heavily on whatever they decide they want to do.
Sure.
So that was a big risk. And so those things catapulted us going forward. And, my business partner, Rich, and I just sat down and said, we want to take care of people. We didn't have the vision to grow it the way it was right now. We just said, we want people to earn more money. We want to have better benefits. We want to have this work-life harmony. People talk a lot about balance. I see it more like harmony, because balance means you're giving up one thing to have another. And that's not the case. Harmony means you intertwine them, because that's really what we have to do, is figure out how to make them work together, not give up one to have the other. And so when we did that, then our team started working twice as hard, doing twice as much work. And then the next thing we knew, we had people wanting to come work for us because of the benefits that we had, and our team grew and our sales grew. And so then the next thing we thought was, well, this is a good formula of how this can work. Let's bring some other key people in to help us. So remember, at that point, my last math class was 11th grade. So I was running the finances for the company. So our first really big move was to hire a controller, who is now our CFO, who has been absolutely instrumental in the progress that the company has made, because he can see my crazy vision and make it make sense and map it out for people fiscally and through measurements. So we're like just a great balance.
Yeah.
It's finding key people that's really what's going to make things change for people.
You're transitioning to like exactly what I wanted to talk about just the scalability and the impressive scale that you've had over just the last couple of years. And there's so much I wanted to unpack in there. The one was how much you emphasized some professional development and took advantage
Yeah.
of that course and learned so much, and how it opened your eyes. I think there's so many small businesses, medium-sized businesses, whatever you category, put them in whatever
Hmm.
category, that think of, oh, just like Utica, New York, but like this is the way it is. And like once you make those connections in your industry, like around the country, and find out
Yeah.
how many different ways there are to do it, I
Yeah.
think it's, to someone who's watching this, maybe a small business and like looking to scale but doesn't know, how to, or what should I do from a professional development, and I'll add partnership side as
Yeah.
well, because you just talked about, the power of putting the right people in the right seats and
Yeah.
empowering them, and how, the puzzle pieces come together from that. What would you say around that topic?
Yeah. I think there's this balance between exposing your weaknesses and recognizing your weaknesses and being okay with that because, a while ago I read a little bit about, find out what there's 20% of something that you can do better than anybody else can do. And then 80% of your day is filled with things that you need to do to keep your day going. Find someone that will do those 80% that you don't do really well, that you don't really like to do, and allow them to do it and focus on that 20% that you're really, really good at. And then what will happen is they will do the same thing. And
Mm,
so to give you an example, I knew I was not great at finance. I have a visionary finance mind, but I don't necessarily have the training or the schooling to be able to really understand that fully. So the first thing we did was hire our controller, our CFO now. We didn't have the money to do it, and that's what I often hear from small businesses. Like, of course, I'd love to hire people but I don't have the money to do it. Well, neither did we, and so my business partner and I both took pay cuts because we knew in order for us to take the next step, we would need that person, and so we took pay cuts. We brought him on, and exponentially, we were all able to build from that. And since then, he's built a team, so he's figured out what he doesn't do real well or doesn't want to do that takes up too much of his time. He's built a team to do that, and then he focuses on the things that he's exceptional at.
mm-hmm.
And then that's what's actually happened, and that's how we've grown the team. Is when it's time, when you're ready to focus on that 20%, and you can bring somebody else in who can focus on the 80% of the things that you're doing just to keep the wheels turning.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, you find the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have the money, you find the way to find the money.
Right.
Go find a grant, cut your pay, do whatever you need to do. Go to the bank because those are the steps that are necessary to get you to that next level. So,
Sure. Sure.
and then the next levels will end up essentially paying for that afterwards. Once you get the ball rolling, it pays for itself when you're
Yeah.
making good decisions and bringing on good people.
Sure. Last point I want to touch on is the culture. And you said something that you kind of skipped over, but I want everybody to rewind and listen to it. Of people wanted to come work for us.
Mm-hmm.
You never hear that today. What do we hear?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't find good help. I can't find
mm-hmm.
anybody to work for me. Well, at some point you got to look back in the mirror and say, why is that, right? Tell
Right.
tell us what you've learned about that, and what the cultures that you've built there for your workforce as you've grown it so fast over the last couple of years, and
Yeah.
your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started with the fact that my business partner and I, we were employees for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get the benefits, we didn't get the balance or the harmony that we talked about, and so that's what we wanted. I wanted it immediately when I took over ownership, that now I can finally have control over that. But what I recognized were that people were not taking vacations. A lot of our employees. They're if they have a week off, they're using it to work on the house or do something along those lines. And they don't. If I give them a bonus, they're paying for bills. And so the first thing we wanted to do was ensure that people were rejuvenating themselves, taking time for themselves. And it got to the point where I learned I had to force them to do that. So we created our vacation reimbursement. And so every employee, after you've been employed for us for 6 months, each year you get a $2,000 net reimbursement for a vacation, whether the CFO or your helper. Everyone gets the same amount, and you have to go on vacation. You have to turn in receipts to get reimbursed for that vacation, and it's forced a lot of people to take vacations for the first time ever.
So
They've
cool.
worked for us for 10 years and they've never taken a vacation. In the impact that has, not just to that employee but to their family, is really significant. And so we just kind of build off of those types of things, and we recognize that our decisions for our employees impact their families, their children, and so a lot of the benefits that we have are based around how can we support the families and what we can do, and how can we do things that maybe they wouldn't do on their own. Life insurance. The day that you walk into Standard and you're an employee here, you get life insurance, and that was based on us losing one of our employees in a motorcycle accident. And I thought, he was young. We offered it, but he didn't sign up for it. And as a result, now everybody has a life insurance policy here, no matter what your age is. And so you have that comfort, and the family has that comfort. And if that were to ever happen again, which unfortunately it did, then the families have that.
Sure.
And so I think we're just always looking for those kinds of ways to do it. We do a lot of fun stuff here too. We do the dodgeball tournaments, and we do a lot of those kinds of fun things. We go to Enchanted Forest every summer with the families, and we do those types of things. But really, it's about just recognizing that our employees have a family, they're part of a community, and what can we do to support them? And we have a director of talent and culture, because she's HR, but she's really looking to find ways to enhance their lives, and if we can do it through Standard. And in most cases, in a lot of cases, we're the support system for the employees.
Right.
Families are different these days, and so a lot of people don't have the family support. We're there. We get people through some tough times in their lives. And so when people start hearing about that, on top of the fact that I think we also pay really well, that helps.
Sure.
So when that happens, you have people that hear their friends are working for us. What's it going to take to come work for you? And we set people up to be as successful as possible. But the other really good thing about growth is it gives opportunity to them too. So when you start here at Standard, you can continue to grow. You don't hit a ceiling real fast. So
last point I just want to make on this. What do you think the biggest, misconception is that people that are having a hard time keeping people, that are having a hard time hiring people with culture? Like, what do you think the biggest roadblock is for some folks of thinking about this topic?
Well, I think one of the hardest things that I have is where the line draws between empathy for people and being taken advantage of. And I feel like oftentimes other business owners will tell me, I'll be really, really nice, and that same employee that I did all of that for just walked out on me. So, I'm going to stop doing that for everybody. And I think that's the major roadblock, is because you've been hurt so many times in the past, so that puts up a block for the future. And I definitely, there are people I've done a lot of really great things for, I've gone above and beyond, I've given and given and given, and they've left, or, something has happened. And you got to you can't let those kind of experiences stop you from continuing to help people and continue to be empathetic for people. And I, talking to owners all the time, especially people who've been in business for a long time, there's so many times that you've been taken advantage of as an employer, and it can create roadblocks to wanting to continue doing good things for people, because you can see it walk out the door in a lot of cases. And you gotta let that go. And, you can choose to be angry about something, or you can choose to let it go. And so if somebody frustrates you, you're the one that's making the choice to be frustrated. That person didn't make that choice for you, so you got to be able to let it go. Yeah. And I've learned over the years, and believe me, I was not good at that. In the beginning of my career, I took everything to heart, and took everything so personally. And once I shed that, and I was able to continue just giving to people, even though I know that they might not give back, or maybe they can't, or maybe they won't, it doesn't stop me from continuing doing it later on. So once you can shed that, it makes a lot of difference. But it doesn't come easy, believe me. No. I have not always been this way. It's something I've learned and evolved, and trials and tribulations have gotten me to this point. So
yeah, I had coffee with another business owner this morning. They've been in business for like 10 years, and we talked about that exact topic of how powerful it is to fail through those things. You have to learn that way. You have to have those experiences in order to realize, oh, hey, I have to do this differently, or I need to provide something different, or hey, that didn't go well, how do I fix it? So I think there's a lot of power in that.
I think the other thing is that when I gave the vacation policy, they started the vacation policy. It was such a big thing. Everybody talked about it. It was super exciting. And now it's been almost 3 years that it's happened. And now it's just normal.
Right.
So they're not doing cartwheels down the hallway anymore for it, but that doesn't mean that it's not having a really positive impact. But it
Sure.
also means that I think I gotta find, I won't end it, but I think I gotta find the next thing. What's the
Yeah.
next thing that's gonna, spark that interest? But that's the other hard part. It's a lot of money, $2,000. I have over
Yeah.
100 employees.
Right.
It's a lot. And when I'm like, so and so didn't tell me about their vacation this year. I didn't know about it. And it's because it's now become part of their lives and it's just normal. And so
Yeah.
it's not as exciting, but I know it's still having a major impact. So I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing is just because it loses its pizzazz or its loudness does not mean it's not having an impact. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Jen, thank you very much for spending the time with us. I really, really appreciate it and sharing your inspiring story. I know it's been really inspiring for me as a young business owner, and I'm sure the listeners will take a lot from it. Just pitch like where people can get in touch with you again, where you are, or social media, the best way to
Yeah.
just follow you guys, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So we're located in Marcy Standard Heating, Cooling, and Insulating. We also have an office in Colony. You can find us pretty much everywhere. We have a fantastic marketing team that makes sure that if you even want to attempt to find us, you can find us. If you have any problems with comfort in your home, if your system is just not feel like it's not working, it doesn't have to be broken for us to help you. And a lot of people right now are dealing with ice problems and comfort problems and energy problems because this has been the coldest winter in a really long time.
Yeah.
Give us a call and we'll figure out how we can help you.
Awesome. Thanks again for taking the time, everybody. That's a
Thank you.
wrap of today's episode of 5 with T5. Be sure to check us out on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. It's where we put these episodes out weekly on Wednesday. Until next time, remember the power of connection and learning from one another is what makes our community thrive. But most importantly, remember to make an impact in someone's life today, even if that's your own. Stephen Turnbull here with T5 Insurance. We'll see you next week. Take care.